Have you ever felt connected to a place that you've never lived? Well, you've never lived there in your current lifetime, but you certainly feel like you could have lived there at some point in the past. That's how I feel about New Orleans. She is my soul home, and she has beckoned to me ever since I can remember. My parents had always found it odd the way I talked about a place that I had never been to or knew nothing about at my young age. I may not have known, but my soul certainly knew. And when I was old enough, my friend Bridget and I decided to pay New Orleans a visit. It was our final semester in college, and we wanted to do something amazing and adventurous before the world took hold of us. And of course, New Orleans was the place. 1997. I will never forget. We decided to go for just a few days. And boy, let me tell you something. From the moment I stepped foot in the city, I felt so energized. I felt fulfilled. I felt like I was where I was supposed to be. And I'd never felt that anywhere before. I felt welcomed. I felt accepted. Bridget, on the other hand, felt much different than I, which she was raised by a very strict religious family. So I didn't expect her to embrace New Orleans the way I had. She was reluctant at first, resistant, but after a while, she was with open arms, ready to experience the place that I'd loved since I'd come into the world. One night we decided to go hang out on Bourbon Street because that's what all the tourists do when they come to the city, right? Except I didn't feel like a tourist. I felt like I knew every street, every nook, every cranny, every space. I saw people who seemed so familiar, even though I had never seen them before in my life. While we were down in the French Quarter in one of the bars, there was a gentleman that caught my eye. He was standing off in a corner sipping a drink, separate and apart from everyone else, and more than just where he was standing, but separate and apart as in he seemed as though he were from a different time, a different place. And whatever that place was, It was familiar to me, and I felt myself being drawn over to him. And I can hear Bridget calling my name from behind me, but she sounded further and further and further away the closer I got to this man. And right when I got to him, everything went silent. And the people that had surrounded us faded like a mist. And there was no more music, no more laughter, no more sounds from the street. The building itself we were in seemed to change, as though it were transported back in time. But I didn't care because I knew somehow I was connected to this gentleman who stood before me. And we stayed locked in a gaze for what seemed for a very long time. And we didn't speak, not with words, but with feeling, with eye contact. And we were standing so close. We weren't touching, but I could feel him, and I knew he could feel me. And there was something in his eyes that, well, something in his eyes that made me tingle all over. He leaned in close to me, and he whispered something in my ear. And as he whispered, I could hear once again the sounds coming from the street, the laughter from the people, the music. Very, very low at first. But then the volume increased as though someone were turning up a radio. And that's when I could hear Bridget again screaming my name from across the room above the music. And it almost seemed as though I were in a trance and something had snapped me out of it. And when I looked around, I was standing in a corner staring at a wall. But I knew he had been there because I could still feel him. I could still sense him. I could still smell him. I could still hear his whispers in my ear, even though they were getting further and further away. And then I felt Bridget's hand on my shoulder, and she twisted me around and she yelled in my face, "Where did you go?" And I stared at her. Where did I go? I don't know. I thought I was here, but apparently I wasn't. She was hysterical as she relayed what she witnessed. She watched me float, is the word that she used. Not walk, but float over to this corner of the room. And she was in such shock at what she was seeing. She couldn't move. And then she watched me fade into nothing and completely disappear. And that's when she began to think that someone had put some type of drug in her drink, because there's no way she had just watched her friend fade before her very eyes. She told me I was gone for a full 20 minutes. But to me, it was only a few seconds. I didn't doubt what she said. I believed every word because, of course, I had the experience. And I know she was scared and worried. She was ready to leave, but I wanted to stay because all I could do was search the room for the man, for his eyes, for his scent. I wanted to see him. I wanted to be wherever he was. But Bridget was ready to go. The experience was unnerving, and she convinced herself that, of course, someone had slipped something in her drink. She'd had too much. When we got back to our hotel, I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I sat up in bed thinking about him, wondering who he was, where he'd come from. Why was he so familiar to me? Eventually, I drifted off. The next day, when I woke up, Bridget was packed and ready to head back home. But I told her I didn't want to go. She would have to go back on her own. I was going to stay for the full duration of our trip. We argued back and forth a bit. And then eventually she said she wasn't leaving me behind. I told her I just needed to find him. She kept asking who him was, and I had no answer for her. So we decided to go out for the day. We explored the city, and I felt drawn to so many different places. Finally, after walking for I don't know how many hours, poor Bridget was completely worn out. We slipped into a little cafe, and there, behind the counter, was the man I'd seen in the club the night before. And you won't believe when we locked eyes, he mouthed the words, "It's you." I immediately went over to the counter and he reached his hand out to me and we touched. Oh, what a feeling it was. That familiarity was so comforting. He took a break and he and I stepped outside to talk. And he said, "This is going to sound," and I stopped him. And I assured him it would not sound strange at all. But he said, "Last night, I was in bed sleeping, and I dreamt I was in this club." And he says, "I saw you across the room." And I thought, my goodness, I know her. She's so familiar to me. He said, "That's when you looked at me and you started walking in my direction." He said, "When I woke up from the dream, I could smell your scent on my shirt, on my sheets, on my pillow." He said, "When you walked into the cafe today, I was in disbelief because where did you come from? And who are you?" And we both laughed. We had our first date that night. And we knew that very moment that we met, we knew that we were meant to be together. Somehow, some way, New Orleans worked her magic and she brought us together. A couple of days later, I went back home, but we stayed in touch, of course. I visited him, he visited me. And 2 years later, we were married. In New Orleans, of course. We spent a great deal of time there. We brought our children when they were born as a way of saying thank you. You see, New Orleans isn't an ordinary place. It is a place of magic, of mystery. It's a place of love and romance, depth, and even darkness. And I'm sharing this story with you because I want you to experience it for yourself. I know she's calling to you. I know she is waiting for you, arms open wide, like a patient lover. New Orleans has many things that she wants to share with you. And there's no need to be afraid. There's no need to be scared or confused. Because what you are feeling is real, that pull, that tug, that gentle nudge that says, I am your soul home. I want to see you. Come and pay me a visit. So, if you are feeling that urge, take heed. Give in. And come and see what secrets New Orleans has that she wants to reveal to you. Let her pull you in and whisper softly in your ear. Welcome home, my love. Welcome home.